Says with MTV. What happened there?
Yes, at MTV, again, another unprecedented event. MTV had an independent document, a producer, who did something called I'm a New Yorican. It was a very classical portrayal of Puerto Ricans as, gang leaders, dropouts, drug addicts, dysfunctional families, the works.
Very negative.
Extraordinarily
and not
negative.
the positive side at all.
Nothing, no balance. And we don't have a problem, free speech, hey, go ahead, but present some kind of balance. And when I started monitoring some of the MTV's programming, in that segment in particular, I said, oh my God, not only to Latinos, but to other youths, what kind of messages are you sending? That led me, after a month or two of monitoring, to write directly to the chairperson of MTV. I went nowhere but the chairperson, who happened to be a very progressive woman, and I said, we need to talk. And by the way, I had also sent a letter to the president and CEO of Viacom. And so they answered immediately. And they knew about our doings with the PBS. And they said, oh boy, these guys are trouble. Let's sit down. In a matter what had not been accomplished by some students who were the ones who really started this petition, in maybe 4, 5, 6 months effort, we managed with our intervention to have happened in maybe a week or two. They pulled out the program, and it is no longer to be aired. And then I said, well, that's not enough. We need something retribution. You need to do something that shows the positive side of Latino youth. And actually they did. It's called Proud Latinas, which they had maybe about 2 or 3 months ago. And that was unprecedented. It was something that took some of us aback. I thought it was going to take forever to get the program out and not repeat it. And I was very surprised, to MTV's credit, that and the chairwoman in particular, that it was removed within 2 weeks.
So Marta, what about Spanish television? Do you monitor what they're doing as well? Are they presenting the right image of the Hispanic community? Is there a problem because some of these stations are not really owned by Latinos?
There is a problem, and there is an assumption that Univision and Telemundo are owned by Latinos. And that's a myth. They are not. Univision is owned by Capital Investment Group, which is an Egyptian, and other shareholders, very few of them Latino, if any. And Telemundo is owned by NBC Universal, which is now going to be purchased by Comcast.
And the fact that they're not owned by Latinos, how does that affect the programming?
It affects the programming in terms of the talent that's in there. Telemundo, for example, we lost, and that brings us to resources. We lost almost 1,000 journalists, anchors, and some producers. And
when NBC bought it?
When NBC bought it, yes.
So the merger of these two networks was counterproductive for the Latino employees of Telemundo.
Right, and I bring that because we need to educate our communities that when they see these kinds of mergers in their newspapers or hear about it, that they have to think, what does that mean for me? What does that mean in terms of how much money I'm going to pay for cable television now if Comcast buys NBC Universal? What does that do in terms of the talent that Telemundo has? In Telemundo, for example, we saw something very painful. We had some of the NBC anchors getting paid one salary, and some of the talent at Telemundo going either down in salaries or having to do multiple tasking to stay on the same salary level. Of course, many of them lost their contract.
You mentioned Comcast. There's a merger coming up that may also affect us?
Yes, there's a big Comcast purchase of NBC, which is currently at the FCC level. There were hearings in LA and other parts of the country, Chicago included, where we testified that big merger is potentially going to be the loss of even more jobs, not only at Telemundo NBC, but also in other areas. because it's a wide spam. It's not only the TV, it's radio, it's the internet, it's film. I mean, it crosses a whole branch of areas that we've been trying to make some progress in. We were part of the 5 team of negotiators. We recently had a meeting with the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and we did sign a memorandum of understanding again with another network now, Comcast, and it took quite a while to get to our hard line, which was that this has to be enforceable, that there's procurement and other elements of the memorandum of understanding that the Congress has to ensure or help us ensure that these things happen. Otherwise, we're going to have the similar situation that we had with the purchases of NBC and Telemundo.
We only have like half a minute, but what should the Latinos who is watching us do when they see hate speech, when they see the Latino community portrayed in a negative light? What advice do you give them? How do they get involved in the community?
Listen, I think one of the biggest challenges that we've had is precisely that we need our community members to, when they see something they don't like, pick up the phone, call the local stations, the radio, television, speak to somebody there, hopefully the general managers, and get your voices heard.
Can they reach out to your organization?
Yes.
Is there a website that you can tell us about that
Yes.
they can go and get more information?
Absolutely. It's www.N as in Nancy, H as in house, M as in Mary, C.org, nhmc.org. And we have a lot of information here there, including how to get in touch with the FCC and how to submit comments even online, and I think that's very important.
It's important to have had you on the program. I think it's wonderful information that you've given us, and thank you for being here. It's a real pleasure. We'll be back very soon with another edition of the Bronx Journal. Thank you.